Our wonderful planet Earth is wrapped in a special blanket of air we call the atmosphere. This invisible shield is a mix of different gases, but one of the most important for us is oxygen. Right now, about 21% of the air you are breathing is filled with this vital gas. It is a key ingredient for life as we know it. Every breath you take pulls oxygen into your lungs, which then travels through your body, giving energy to every single one of your cells. It's not just us humans who need it. From the smallest mouse scurrying in the grass to the largest blue whale swimming in the ocean, nearly all animals depend on oxygen to live and thrive. Imagine for a moment a startling thought experiment. What if this life-giving gas began to disappear? Let's picture a scenario where every second, 1% of the oxygen in our atmosphere simply vanishes. This would not be a slow, gentle change that we could adapt to over generations. It would be a rapid, catastrophic event that would transform our world in mere minutes. The air we depend on, the very substance that fuels our bodies and our world, would start to thin out at an alarming rate. This sudden loss would trigger a chain reaction, affecting not only every living creature but the very fabric of our environment and the machines we have built. At first, you might not notice anything is terribly wrong. For the first few seconds, the air would just feel a little different, a bit thinner perhaps. It would be similar to the feeling you get when you climb a very tall mountain, where the air pressure is lower and there is naturally less oxygen to breathe. An elite athlete running a race would be the first to feel it, their lungs working harder for less reward, their powerful muscles suddenly feeling weak and sluggish. Scientists monitoring the atmosphere would see their instruments displaying bizarre readings, numbers dropping so fast they would think their equipment was broken. But soon, the feeling would spread to everyone. This initial sensation of thin air would quickly escalate into a real struggle. The drop in oxygen would mean our bodies would have to work much harder just to perform simple tasks. Your heart would start to beat faster, trying to pump more blood to deliver the dwindling supply of oxygen to your brain and muscles. You would begin to feel lightheaded and out of breath, as if you had just run a long distance without stopping. This is the first warning sign from our planet, a signal that the fundamental balance that sustains us is being broken, second by second, with consequences becoming more severe with every tick of the clock. After about 30 seconds, with nearly a third of the oxygen gone, the world would be in a state of clear emergency. The air would now be as thin as it is at the summit of Mount Everest, a place where even the most experienced climbers need oxygen masks to survive. Most people would be gasping for breath, their bodies desperately trying to get enough oxygen. You might feel confused or dizzy, and simple actions like walking would become incredibly difficult. People who live at high altitudes, like in the mountains of Tibet or the Andes, might cope slightly better for a little while as their bodies are already used to having less oxygen. This dramatic change would have an immediate and devastating effect on animals all around the globe. Birds, which need a huge amount of energy and oxygen to power their flight, would be among the first to suffer. Unable to keep their wings beating, they would begin to fall from the sky in vast numbers. In the oceans, fish would start to struggle as the dissolved oxygen in the water begins to escape into the air, a process like a soda can losing its fizz. The silent, graceful world beneath the waves would turn into a scene of chaos, as marine creatures of all sizes fight for their last breath. Even the plants, which we know for producing oxygen, would be in trouble. While they create oxygen through photosynthesis during the day, they also need to breathe it in to power their own life processes, especially at night. With oxygen levels plummeting, plants would be forced to switch to less efficient energy pathways, effectively beginning to suffocate slowly. The green forests and fields that cover our planet, the very lungs of the Earth, would start to wither. The vibrant green of our world would begin to fade, a sign that life itself was failing at its most basic level. The impact wouldn't stop with living things. The world we have built is also powered by oxygen. Combustion, the process of burning fuel, requires oxygen to work. Suddenly the engines in cars, trucks, and buses would sputter and fail. They are designed to run on a precise mix of fuel and 21% oxygen, and they simply could not function with so little. This would cause unimaginable traffic jams on every road, with millions of vehicles becoming silent, useless metal boxes. Our modern world, so dependent on movement and transport, would come to a complete standstill in less than a minute. As we reach the 1-minute mark, half of the world's atmospheric oxygen would be gone. At this point, the situation for humanity would be dire. The lack of oxygen reaching our brains would cause severe confusion, loss of coordination, and eventually, unconsciousness. People's lips and skin would turn a bluish color, a clear sign of severe oxygen deprivation. The sounds of our civilization, the hum of traffic, the roar of factories, would be replaced by the wail of sirens from emergency vehicles, which would soon fall silent themselves. The world would look like a scene from an apocalyptic film, with people staggering and collapsing in the streets. The chaos in the skies would be even more terrifying. Airplane engines work by compressing air to burn fuel, and they need a constant, rich supply of oxygen to generate thrust. As the oxygen levels dropped, their engines would fail. With no power to keep them aloft, planes would become gliders, but not for long. One by one, they would fall from the sky, leading to catastrophic crashes all over the planet. Our ability to travel across continents in a matter of hours, one of the great achievements of our time, would end in tragedy, reminding us how fragile our technology is when the laws of nature are altered. Our homes and cities would also begin to fail. Many of our power plants burn fossil fuels like coal or natural gas to generate electricity. Just like a car engine, these plants need oxygen to burn their fuel. As they shut down, the electrical grids they support would go dark, lights would flicker out, refrigerators would stop humming, and the internet would go down. Only sources of power that don't need oxygen, like solar panels, hydroelectric dams, and wind turbines, would continue to work. But for most of the world, a sudden and profound darkness would fall, plunging our once bright cities into silence. Even something as simple as a fire would become impossible. A campfire, a candle, or even a matchstick would struggle to burn and then extinguish. The fundamental chemical reaction of fire cannot happen without a sufficient amount of oxygen. While this might seem like a small detail, it highlights how deeply oxygen is woven into the fabric of our world, from the grand scale of global transportation to the simple, comforting flicker of a flame. Our control over the elements, a skill we have honed for millennia, would be lost in a matter of seconds, leaving us powerless. Approaching the 2-minute mark, with over 70% of the oxygen gone, the world would fall silent. Most humans and animals would be unconscious, and survival would be impossible. This event would trigger the largest mass extinction in Earth's history, far greater than the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. But the catastrophe could become even more profound. What if not just the oxygen in the air disappeared, but every single atom of oxygen on the planet? Oxygen is not just in the air, it makes up a huge part of water, the Earth's crust, and even our own bodies, which are about 65% oxygen. If all oxygen atoms vanished, the world would instantly disintegrate. The oceans, now just hydrogen gas, would evaporate into space. The ground beneath our feet, made of silica and other oxygen-based minerals, would crumble into a fine dust. Buildings, bridges, and dams, held together by the oxygen in concrete and steel, would turn to powder in an instant. Our own bodies would simply fall apart, our atoms scattering to the wind. In this ultimate scenario, the Earth itself would be completely destroyed, leaving behind a barren, lifeless rock with no hope of recovery for billions of years. But let's return to our original, less extreme scenario, where only the atmospheric oxygen disappears. Could life ever recover? After about 8 minutes, all the oxygen in the air would be gone, and all complex life would have perished. However, not every living thing on Earth needs oxygen to survive. Deep in the soil, in the vents of volcanoes, and in the dark depths of the ocean, live tiny organisms called anaerobic bacteria. These simple life forms thrived on Earth billions of years ago, before the atmosphere was rich in oxygen. For them, this catastrophe would be a return to the good old days. Alongside these bacteria, a few other hardy creatures might just survive. The humble cockroach can hold its breath for up to 40 minutes, and the remarkable naked mole rat can survive for 18 minutes without any oxygen at all. These creatures, along with some fungi and worms that can switch to non-oxygen-based energy, could become the sole survivors on a devastated planet. From these incredibly resilient organisms, life could, theoretically, begin its long journey again. It would take many millions of years for evolution to produce complex animals and replant the forests, but it is a testament to the tenacity of life that even after such an unimaginable disaster, a faint glimmer of hope would remain.